Everybody, welcome to Live Lunch with KUDZUKIAN. Listen, we are back. We took a good break last week because, as you know, everybody was snowed in.
Snowed in hard.
But it was a good rest week. Well, we kind of work from home, so. But nonetheless, we are back. We are back. Today, of course, we're talking about all things podcasting. We've been doing it since November, I believe. So we're on a roll. But today, we want to talk about taking your podcast live. Let's talk about that. Now, before we hop into it and I reintroduce my special guest, make sure that you're following us on all of our social media platforms. You know, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, and we are on YouTube. You know that I'm on Facebook right now, LinkedIn, all of it. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, make sure you drop them. There you go. Drop them in the description below. The comment section below, and we'll be sure to address them. So let's hop into it. Let's talk about taking your podcast live. Here, I'm reintroducing our Director of Marketing, Asha Emanuel.
Hello.
Hey, Asha.
Hey,
Thank you for joining me. So Asha is one of 3 guests that will be joining me on today's episode to talk about their area of expertise as it relates to preparing to go live for your podcast. So Asha is going to touch on marketing, social media, and things that you can do to prepare yourself to go live.
Right.
So what comes to mind for me, Asha, and I'm sure for a lot of people, is content. Like, how do I market? And so what types of content should I develop or I should be creating to put out there to get my audience to go tune into my live?
So the very first thing that you should think about is when you are planning out kind of a live strategy or what you want to talk about, how you want to talk about it on your show, you want to think about the content afterwards, right? So you want to think about what people are going to take away from the show, how people are going to react to the show. And so you want to put all those things in the show as well, right? So you want to make sure that you have the right wording in the show, because if you look for things online, algorithms, SEO, all those things, all these computer bots are looking at what you've actually said in the video, as well as the wording that you put in the captions for the video, right? So you want to make sure you have all that in place. And then before that, you want to tell your audience that you're coming up live, right? So tell your audience about it in Instagram photos, in graphics, in videos, in the stories. A lot of people look at the stories and not their feed. So, of course, we know you can just go through stories all day long on Instagram and never look at your feed at all, right?
Is that the way to go now? Would you say?
That's the way a lot of people interact
Okay.
with Instagram. It's just going through the stories instead of looking at the feed at all. So it's important to put it in both places because you have audience members that do both. So it's important to put important things like that in both places. And then if you have other methods of talking to your audience, like an email listing or TikTok or LinkedIn or any other platform, you can absolutely, or you should, put it out there as well, especially for your email blast, because that goes directly to people's inboxes and directly to their visual or view. You should put it out there. If you have an app, send a push notification, that you're going live or something like that.
So kind of start with the end in mind.
Absolutely. Always start with the end in mind. And then after you're live, figure out, before you're live, know which points that you want to pull out in your live.
Okay.
And then after you're live, let people know.
Okay.
Right? So we talked about this in the live. Could this help you? Or, what do you think about these bullet points? We talked about this in our live. So, make sure that you have that in your head before you go into the live, so
Okay.
that you make sure that you talk about those points during the live so you can pull it out later.
So from a, I guess, social media perspective, what platforms would you say work best for doing lives? Or would it be all LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter? But I know there are certain like stipulations for each platform. So it's a lot of research and stuff you got to do.
Yeah, so really it just depends on where your audience is.
Okay.
It just depends on where your audience is.
Okay.
Because if you have a bigger following on TikTok, for example, you might do a TikTok live.
Okay.
You know, if you have a bigger following, you may do a TikTok live and then share it to Instagram as just a feed post or something, right? Because you don't have as large or as engaged of an audience on Instagram as you have on TikTok.
Ooh.
So it just depends.
Sorry, I was listening. I did that. I thought I had my glasses on.
Man, they're taking them glasses off of folks. I tell you.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so question: how far in advance should I start promoting? So if I wanted to go live on January the 30th, do I need to start now promoting, or I should have started a long time ago?
That's a little tricky.
Okay.
Because I mean, there are some influencers or there are some people that go live just because they had the thought this morning, you know? Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of fun, I guess, to be spontaneous with it a little bit. It just kind of depends. Depends on your audience, depends on what your audience likes and how you typically interact with your audience.
Okay.
So if you typically give your audience a heads up, then you should continue giving them a heads up.
Okay.
Right? Or if you have a longer live video that you're interested in showcasing, or if you have just a quick thought, you can go live right then. There. You know, because the great thing about these platforms is they let all of your followers know that you're live.
Okay.
And so when you can extend your live, right, in a long enough amount of time, that's why you have people that start their live. It's like, come on, we're going to wait for people to join. Come on into the live. Come on into the live. But it gives people an opportunity to get the notifications from Facebook, from Instagram, from TikTok, from LinkedIn to say, hey, this person that you follow is live and you might want to check it out.
Gotcha. So how does that, just for example, those spontaneous... Real quick, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Listen, okay, for those, I know, like, hurry up. Okay, I'm coming. For those spontaneous moments, right? Typically, I guess you won't be able to do a podcast episode. If you wake up one morning and you're like, oh, I got a thought, I'm about to go live. Could that be a moment to promote maybe your podcast or an episode that you may have coming up?
So... always.
Okay.
Right. So every time you get in front of the mic, every time you get in front of people, you need to always be telling them about what you have going on. Like always be selling.
Okay. No, I got you.
Always tell them about what you have going on, what you have coming up. But for those spontaneous moments, things like that, those are things that just boost your other content because the platforms enjoy when people go live because more people get interactive, more people do comments, more people talk. So they like when people go live, but you need to always tell them like, okay, I'm done now, but make sure that you tune into the podcast because I got a lot more to say. Yeah. You know, but I'm done right now.
Yes.
Because ain't nobody finna watch a live for like 2 hours.
That's true. That's true.
That's too much.
That's true.
2 hours is too much. But, you know, it's you should always definitely tell people what you have going on, whether it's a podcast, a new book, you know, a upcoming talk or a workshop or whatever it is. You need to make sure that you always tell people what you have going on.
Gotcha. Thank you, Asha. That was so helpful.
Thank you.
So, y'all, we are about to take a break, and I will have my special guest come up right after this.
Check out all your KUDZUKIAN favorites now.
Just like that, we are back. I hope you enjoyed that commercial. It's an overview of KUDZUKIAN and our services here at KUDZUKIAN. So, and I also hope you enjoyed those nuggets left by Asha, our Director of Marketing. Now, I have a very special guest. This is the first time you are seeing her on Live Lunch with KUDZUKIAN. She is our producer, Krista Scott.
Hey, everybody.
What's up, Krista?
Hey.
So listen, this is, like I said, this is Krista's first time on Live Lunch with KUDZUKIAN, and I wanted her to come on and give her perspective as a producer and prepping for going live. I said, Krista, we're going to talk about going live with the podcast, and I want you to speak from a producer's perspective and that prep work, that time that goes behind preparing to go live with your podcast. So, Krista, tell us about like your checklist. What does that look like when you're wanting to go live for your podcast?
Well, I'm going to talk specifically like podcast club for anyone out there who wants to do a podcast, because everyone always talks about, well, I have something to say. I want to talk and start a podcast. And the first thing seems very simple, but you need to have a focus. And that focus needs to be really specific, because you may say, you know what, I love sports. I'm going to do a podcast about sports. There are hundreds of thousands of sports podcasts out there. So do you want to do a podcast specifically about Memphis sports? Do you want to do it specifically about basketball? Do you want to do it specifically about women's sports? And once you have come up with a very clear focus of what you want your podcast to be, you need to make sure that you are knowledgeable about that topic. Because it's one thing to say, you know what, I'm really interested in women's sports, but if you don't know very much about it, you're not going to have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So make sure you have that clear vision and purpose, and you know the overall message that you're trying to share when it comes to it. If you are wanting to do Memphis sports, maybe you're wanting to make sure that you share with the world that they don't know enough about John and that they need to be watching him in the future and this team in the future. But you really need to have an overall focus before you start.
Yeah. So just because you threw his name out there, just
Yes.
hypothetically, right?
Yes.
Which would be really cool if we were to get John on this R&R on sports, right?
That would be amazing.
So if we're going live
Yes,
with
ma'am.
John Morant, and you're the producer of that, but
Yes.
our producer will be up next, Jeremy. But this is a hypothetical, right?
Yes.
What are the steps that we need to take?
Well, first of all, if we are reaching out and we're having a guest on, we need to make sure that we outline what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
That way, not only the guest, but the hosts, R&R, Larry and Howard, stay on topic.
Yes.
Because it's very easy to go off topic and talk about a myriad of things. And so maybe they've talked to the guest, they've talked to John, and we're like, we want to talk specifically about your work on and off the court, what you've done in the court and what you've done for the community. And so you would outline to make sure that you hit all those topics, because it's very easy, as we know, just talking here, time can get away from you very quickly. And
Yes.
especially when you have a certain amount of time for your podcast, you want to make sure that you hit all of the major points.
Yes.
Make sure you get that question in that you really want to ask. You really want to know how many shoes has he given to kids on the court? How many times has he, done other community service in the community? That kind of thing. You want to make sure you hit all of those things. And you need to plan all of that in advance. You need to have your outline. You need to do research. You can't just be a fan. You have to know, where did he come from? How did he get here? Where is he going next? You need to know a lot of these things before you ask the question, so you're not, hit with a curveball when he's answering.
Yeah. So are you in the room as a producer when we say in action? Are you in the room? Are you in the control room? Like, where are you when it starts?
Usually I am in the vicinity where I can hear what's happening.
Okay.
So if we are recording like this and I am not part of it, I'm usually in the control room so I can listen and observe.
Okay.
If we are in the studio where we're recording video, I like to be in there because video adds another element where if something is moved, something is set up wrong, or something is adjusted, then I can make sure we stop it and we get a clean feed.
Yes.
So my job essentially is to make sure the talent, the guest, everyone looks their best and sounds their best and is presented in the best light and gets the message across.
Absolutely. As a producer, you play a very vital part, because not only are you doing this research, you're in the room, you're listening, even from a visual perspective. You want to, if it's a video podcast and you're looking, you want to make sure the person's hair is good,
Right.
And then also just the things that go on behind the scenes, artwork, managing it. If we have artwork, collateral, making sure that each team is getting it done, just managing that whole thing. So being a producer is heavy.
It is. And one other point, each episode of a podcast is important, but overall consistency is key. Not just in your messaging, but your length, when you're releasing. I know Asha was talking about, releasing episodes. If like this, if you expect to have episodes every Tuesday at noon, then we should really be releasing every Tuesday at noon, because that's where your fan base is going to look for you.
Yeah.
Unless, there's a severe thunderstorm, snowstorm or something. But you really need to make sure that you are consistent. And you were talking about guests. Guests always add something extra that can help push forward whatever your focus is for your podcast.
I love it. Krista, thank you. Were there any other, nuggets that you want to mention before we transition?
I would say that doing a podcast with KUDZUKIAN is super easy. We do all the heavy lifting for you. We provide the microphones. We provide the recordings. We help distribute. And if you have ever been interested in doing a podcast, just reach out to us. It's super easy.
It really
is.
Super
easy.
It really is.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Krista.
Thank you.
Y'all, if you have any questions, comments, Joy, she put a comment in here. Krista is dropping knowledge, and she's very experienced. So thank you. We're going to break. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Oh,
You-
I was supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry, Larry. My bad.
Y'all, we are back, and right now I am going to introduce our you have many titles. So, our producer of R&R Sports, content manager, and production manager here at KUDZUKIAN, Jeremy McKnight.
Hello, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Listen, so as you know, I told you at the beginning, we are talking about how to prepare to go live with your podcast. We've talked from a marketing perspective. We had Ashi Manuel, and then we talked to, not too long ago, our producer from a producer's perspective. So now we're going to talk about from a production perspective. You know, what does that look like? The prep work that goes on behind it. And I said, you know what? We can get Jeremy on to talk about this.
Yeah, they pulled me from the back. I was actually behind the scenes running this live, and I was pulled from the back. So, yeah.
You're good. You got it.
Yeah, I got
You
it.
got it. Okay, Jeremy. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about your process and what is it that you do when we're about to go live with the podcast, from equipment, from creating a checklist, location, all of that, your involvement in all of that. So what does it look like?
So the first thing that we do generally is find out where the live event is going to be, whether that's in studio here or on site on location somewhere else. And from once we find that out, the next thing we do, if it's not here, the next thing we do is do a site visit.
Okay.
And so a site visit is where we go to the location, kind of scout the area, look at lighting, look at sound, to determine what equipment we're going to need to make the live event go off well. And we do the same thing in the studio. We just don't have to go anywhere. But if we need anything extra or anything like that, we do the same thing.
Okay.
And from that point, we build a equipment pull list.
Okay.
And so that allows us to know exactly what we need, and we make the list based off of what we scouted at the site visit.
Okay.
And so whether that means how many mics we need, the cameras we need, how much lighting we need, any props we need, anything. That's what we do after the site visit. We make an equipment list. And when it comes to live events and live streaming, in that process, we also figure out videos or graphics or anything that's going to be involved in the stream. So as you've seen today, which we haven't done before, we've been playing commercials. And so in the process of setting up for this live lunch today, I had to go find our commercials that we were going to play, load them into our software, and have them ready to go. Same thing with the graphics. All of that stuff is involved before you actually go live.
So you work closely, because now that you're talking about all of this, I think about the conversation we just had with Krista. So a lot of those things you will need. And so you will have to work closely with the producer to, hey, Krista, we got this. Did you send me this? Do we need this?
Yeah, so another part of the pre-production is a pre-production meeting, which does involve the producer. And you kind of go through the process with the producer of finding out everything that's needed for your event, for your live, for your podcast. And we do the same steps for podcasts as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely have to be working in conjunction with your producer to figure out everything that needs to happen for this event or for this live.
Yeah, that's good. And we don't have to go too deep into it, because that's just the beginning stages of event production. Because after that, you got to record. You got to set up mics. You got to make sure your cameras are set. You got to make sure the people are in place. You got your team and all of that.
Yeah, and all of that mostly still happens before we actually go live. So like when you actually go live, you want to have everything set and ready, and the live event or the live stream or the podcast should be the easiest thing about the whole process.
Absolutely.
Everything else should be already set. And one of the things I've learned while working in this industry is to kind of pay attention to the little things.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to equipment and things like that, because it'll be the little things that you forget or that's missing. Which is why you want to do all this beforehand so you can know and be prepared as possible.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Do you have, I guess, is there anything, I guess, major? Because we can go on a long time talking about just event production or, in this case, preparing to go live, which is an event for your podcast.
Right.
Do you have
it's something I missed about going live.
Okay.
Another thing you wanna decide is where you're actually going live to and on. So it's not just as simple as popping on YouTube and going live on YouTube, especially in a situation like this where you're doing podcasting and things like that. You a lot of times want to send your stream or your live to different locations. So that's also another step, is figuring out where you actually want people to see this at.
Yeah.
That's a big key to live streaming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, that's good. Listen, so there's a lot of information. And so if it's just you and it's, say, your close family members or friends, you can still do it, but know that KUDZUKIAN has your back. And so if you want to start a podcast, we're here. If you already have a podcast and you want to go live with your podcast, we are here. We have the people like Jeremy, like Krista, like Asha, and myself to help assist you on the journey.
Definitely like Misty. She does everything that she's talked about on every single episode. She does it herself.
Oh, okay.
So, just let you know.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, like I always tell you, you can email me, misty@KUDZUKIAN.com. And also, they pinned in the comment section, if you go look, you can join the podcast club. And then also, in the description, you can download your free podcasting 101 kit. And then, of course, we're on YouTube. And so once we end this, you can go back and check out all of the episodes that we have released, just to get the knowledge about audio equipment, our five-step creative process, and then play this back. So if you are wanting to go live, you know the steps to take and the things that you need to do. Jeremy, thank you for hopping on. That was so helpful. It really, really was.
I had fun.
I'm glad.
But I'm not going to do it.
Oh, goodness. Again.
I'm going to stay behind.
Oh, goodness. That's fine. That's fine. Y'all, we will see y'all next week for Live Lunch with KUDZUKIAN. Bye, y'all.